I think a lot of people see the metaverse being this heavily branded new universe and digital, but the metaverse really is something that's been spoken about in terms of the multiverse or different kind of universes or multiple universes. That's what originally meta and verse means. Technically, or speaking about in regular parlance now, it's different ways of or platforms that offer an opportunity to live, work, play as well. And so the metaverse is a multiverse of knowledge consumption, information sharing that allows us to do things in an even more connected world. Yeah, I think for humans as well, the metaverse allows for a lot more connectedness. I think some people think of the Internet of Things being devices that are connected to an infrastructure. I think the metaverse may also be an extension of our experiences using these things, whether it's your laptop, your cell phone, your TV, home appliances, being online, communication tools, tools for learning. In a sense, the changes look like a more consolidated experience where using one device to another is not necessarily separate, it's interconnected. And so for us humans, it allows a deeper immersive engagement that allows communication to seem seamless, where for most of us now, if you have your cell phone, after your alarm has woken you up, you probably checked your calendar on your phone, you walk into your car, it connects with your Bluetooth and your favorite playlist goes on. And you get to the office, it allows people to know that you showed up, and so alerts your receptionist, or if you have a personal assistant, or if you have a coffee machine to bring you a drink. But it goes beyond that also into Web 3.0 in terms of commerce and dealing with opportunities, not just physical, but now digital. So you hear of non-fungible tokens, NFTs, you hear of currencies that are not like fiat, like paper currencies, but are digital currencies. So they're commodities that have value, but they sit virtually or digitally on servers. And then businesses as well. So looking at sectors from fashion, creative arts, healthcare, and one of the sectors that I'm actually more excited about, immersive learning, right? So ways in which you can go into a 3D experience and either learn historically or learn practically. And there's such an awesome opportunity within the metaverse in disrupting education, learning, healthcare, and ways we do things for humans, communities, and businesses. There's quite a number of them. Of course, the big companies, I think Facebook has rebranded completely and decided to call itself Meta, almost as an ode to the company being a social graph company, which was a social platform, but owning other digital assets like WhatsApp, Instagram, and making a push, as well as the hardware Oculus for an immersive, almost kind of interaction amongst folks and friends across the world. All the big tech companies have a focus on meta in some capacity, shape, or form. So you have your Microsofts, you have Google with their recent I/O conference where they released Pixel and all the other things that goes into that immersive technology. Some of the cool, fun things is to see translations happen on screen in real time as you're speaking to somebody in another language. Then there are, of course, the media companies, so the EA Sports and other the video game companies. They've been doing almost kind of like these, if you're familiar with Sims or having an avatar in a digital space that represents that, they've been companies that have been exploring your digital expression in environments for quite a while. We have college and universities that are exploring that as well. Locally, we've seen some real big push in terms of NFTs, arts and culture. So you have Africa Rare. They've been able to tokenize some of artifacts that have intrinsic value, that are arts and culture related, but specific to African culture. We're also seeing quite a number of new entrants in Web 3.0. So the use of Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and crypto. Some of your favorite telcos, MTN, the South African company that is Pan-African and coming global, also have a play in the metaverse as well. And I'm sure you will see a lot more smaller companies almost tapping into the immersive environment that bigger companies have created. Be it some of your media companies, Disney, and others also have an offering, and they're making a push for that because obviously once you're in the digital space, entertainment and what you do is a big part of that. So media companies with almost like digital assets and environments and animations have a leg up on that as well. Great. I think the metaverse has some quite obvious opportunities, but I would push so that we can look at the opportunities to be reimagined ones. I think for now, a lot of push is on real estate and merchandising and commercial. So we're looking at an environment within the metaverse, at least in the immersive aspects of the metaverse, which includes virtual reality, on more so being a replica of large events. So a lot of folks are incredibly excited, particularly during the lockdown pandemic phase, and exploring what it looked like to connect large number of people virtually in spaces and times when we couldn't. So for your international conferences, Burning Man, your AFCONs, all of these things had some level of virtual experiences. And so businesses in that space could take advantage of the technology that allows connectivity. Concerts were being had with new immersive opportunities. And once you enter that, of course, animators, animations, people who create merchandising. Similarly, the same way that you would go to an in-person experience, if you would see like branding or a brand sponsor or partner, the metaverse allows some extension of that there as well. And there are people who are also looking to have real estate, right? So purchasing spaces and environment. I think for the sectors that I mentioned, education is incredibly exciting. Part of that means that you can now cut the costs and create, similar to folks who may be familiar with piloting and flight simulations. So flight simulations may be considered one of the early kind of virtual reality because it's incredibly costly to have pilots train with real planes, right? It's not something. So then figuring out how do you simulate the flight experience, and so candidates are ready to do the real thing. I think now with a bit of virtual reality, we can simulate other experiences and technical and vocational skills, for example, in medicine and healthcare as well, but also in engineering, right? Another exciting thing about the metaverse is having virtual things show up in the physical space. So augmented reality, devices that can blow up a laptop, can blow up a camera, so that in the learning journeys of either young learners or second wind or silver fox learners moving from one sector to another, now you're not just reading about the textbook, but you have access to augmented reality devices and things in order to help understand. I think the push for me, and we've seen maybe some early sprinklings of some of these, was big projects that maybe Google is having on the Mali project. They've done something that is archival. So taking snapshots of legacy historical sites and presenting them in an immersive way, in a more enriching than just a 2D consumption, right? Where you can be immersed in the history, looking at manuscripts, looking at arts and culture, looking and listening to sound and music in a way that you or the expression of your digital as an avatar can be fully immersed in appreciating that from the comfort of your home or office, thanks to the digital device connectivity. Or some of these elements can be brought home so that you can flip through virtually in an augmented style the original manuscripts of some of the history that is the world's history, whether it's found in places that are difficult to access in the African continent, in East Asia, or in Europe, where not everybody can have access to some of the Magna Cartas or access to some of religious and thoughtful books. I think those are incredibly exciting. Early days, what we started to see is also democratizing value for artists. A lot of artists and creatives kind of struggle on distribution model. And so we've seen non-fungible tokens or NFTs become popular. I can share partnerships that we've had. I know there are a couple of hubs. So Africa No Filter has a partnership with Meta, democratizing information. I spoke about Africa Rare. They are primarily focused on arts and culture and NFTs, things like that. I can speak of partnerships that French Embassy and Animation Academies have with Chimalahong Precinct in South Africa. I can speak of some education institutions that are doing research, particularly in augmented and virtual reality across the African continent, from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Accra, University of Ibadan, all the way through Stellenbosch, Cape Town University. There are all of these kind of university projects going on. Big telcos have the final products, or their play in it is yet to kind of come to the fore. But we also have kind of schools of excellence that are coming to the fore. And so the School of Excellence on Digital Transformation from BITS, University of Witwatersrand, which is housed in the School of Governance, is also an example. We have quite a number of animation companies and so many of them, festivals, activities, and activations that are plugging into kind of the early expressions of the metaverse. And then we also have quite a number of cultural arts and culture curators, both from Europe, some of them in partnerships with French and German global kind of partners to try and see how best they can find and liaise African partners as well. It's early days yet. I think that over the course of the next couple of years, when we get a good, almost like a good point of access to devices, so like virtual reality, and people have access, we'll start to have and see more of a comprehensive database of both private, educational and government, and also coalition organizations on the African continent that have been R&Ding in the space, and they will come to the fore soon. For everybody, I think that the metaverse can either be something you've heard in a corporate branding exercise, or your kids may be telling you about it, or it's something that you know is coming, but you don't have a full grasp of it. The first thing I would tell you is don't be apprehensive. We are exploring and growing and understanding the metaverse as we go along. Think of it as multiple universes or multiple surfaces of consuming data or sharing data, and multiple ways in which we can find ways to optimize your own experience. Early days yet of what the metaverse looks like is being owned by some platforms, tech companies, and telcos. But think about it yourself. What are the things that you would like to be captured and needed? You can personalize the metaverse. A good, interesting use case would be for you to also look at your family tree and history. What documentation of that would that look like? What would archival information look like for your personal version of that? And if you could stitch that together, speaking to an ancestor, a grandparent, understanding where you're coming from, geographically, understanding your place in history chronologically, or even projecting what you would like a message to be for your future ancestors. The early expressions of the metaverse allows for that. And for those who are also excited about commerce, understanding Bitcoin, blockchain technology, yes, some of it is speculative in the early years, but it's really interesting because at one point, almost every bank had its own currency until the government made each nation kind of uniform that. So I think there's an opportunity to remove the fixedness we have of things as is, because it's in the physical world, and then the metaverse gives you and I an opportunity to dream a little. So if you're listening to me talk about the metaverse, dream a little, explore a little, and keep looking out as we explore more. Thank you so much.